Welcome back, everyone, to Aging Well, Finding Beauty in the Gray. It's such a delight to have so many different guests on my show and to learn so much about all the different things that folks are engaged in. I am so excited to have as my guests today Mark and Jody Rollins. I'm going to go short on the introduction with these folks because they have a great story and they're going to share that as a part of our conversation today. So I'm just going to be real quick and say that Mark and Jody, they did have lengthy careers. Jody was in the corporate sector for the length of her career before retiring a few years back. And Mark, as well, he was an entrepreneur and still is, but in his career in the family business with insurance. And he retired a few years back. And they're going to share their story. So I'll just leave that there and say welcome to you both. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having us, Hugh. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Hugh, this is exciting. And you
Yeah.
just gave me a new idea for a book
Oh no.
because as we entered retirement and started a business together, certainly is a lot longer story behind that. The book could be Entrepreneur and Senior Executive.
Oh, I thought you were going to say verses.
No, well, so entrepreneur and senior executive partner up to build a business, and we share all our trials and tribulations
Right.
because here there
There
were a
you go.
lot.
Yeah.
There still
Sure.
is sometimes. It's
Sure.
funny how
Yeah.
our different paths led us
Here today, for
here today
sure.
to build a business, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
complementary, but it also has its
It
challenges.
was controversial,
Yeah.
Well,
controversial as
and we're
well
gonna
at times, for sure.
I'm I'm sure we'll get into some of those, but I'm gonna jump in with a hard-hitting journalistic salvo to get us off the top here. Is it fair to call you the Brady Bunch or no? Is it?
So I'm going to take that one because the answer would be no. And the reason is, if you show me Alice and you find me Sam the Butcher, I'll be Mrs. Brady.
Well,
But
You can
without
claim it.
them, I think we're just a really energetic, cool, blended family with 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls.
well, we have a butcher. His name isn't Sam, and he does provide us with good protein. But yeah, we don't have an Alice, but we do have 6 children, and we did blend 2 families. And I have 3 sons, and Jody has 3 daughters. So we're
Yeah.
about 95% the modern Brady Bunch.
Yeah, I would say so.
Do you well, the other thing that neither of you mentioned would be, do you have one? I'm not an architect, so do we call those split levels? Is that
Oh
right?
yeah.
The
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
scene at
what
the
that's what
beginning
the
of the show?
Brady's have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had the split
No,
levels.
in Connecticut, actually, we live in a historic home. It was built in 1780 and
Hmm.
has a tremendous history. We live in a little village in Connecticut, and the British attacked and burned down houses and ships back in 17 something or
16
other.
something.
Yeah. And then we have a home in Florida that's a little more modern. So we have an old home and a new home.
Beautiful. So
Yeah.
walk us through, give us the Reader's Digest version of you were in lengthy careers and you can describe more about this, but very enjoyable and very meaningful, satisfying careers. And then you rolled, I don't think that's the word I want to use. I'm going to let you guys pick the right word for what happened as you came towards and into retirement. And then we're going to go, of course, go into choices you've made since then. Talk a little bit about how you came into the experience of retirement.
Well, I would start by saying when we met, I don't know, 14 years ago, we just or 15, we just celebrated our 13th wedding anniversary. But when we met and committed to get married and to blend these 2 families, we were both at the peak of our careers. I mean, it was numbing sometimes, right? It just every day woke up and it was full speed ahead, along with integrating 2 families and trying to get the kids to be who they are today, which is like brothers and sisters.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Hugh, I loved my career. I mean, I was in a Fortune 200 financial services company for over 30 years. all over the country, moving my family every couple of years. I started in the 80s, the late 80s, when, this idea of putting women in leadership positions was just starting to take hold. And I raised my hand for everything and anything. I managed teams, I managed profit and loss, I managed claims, I managed customer relationships and brand. And I literally loved every minute of it. And then in 2015, we got an indication. I was doing a board presentation on June 9th of 2015. And on July 1st of 2015, we were committed to sell to a fierce competitor. I stayed on for the 3 years that it took to integrate two Fortune 200 companies into one, blending products and services and clients and talent and people and culture. And honestly, for me, it got to the point where it just became toxic and unhealthy. So I did my 3-year blended integrated commitment. And then at 12:01 a.m., after the end of that contract, I went in at 53 years old after having been there for over 30 years and loving every minute of it, and did one of those, it's not you, it's me. I think, it's time for me to go. And pitched an early retirement. And I don't know if you remember being in high school when you kind of pitched to a girlfriend, or a boyfriend, like, hey, maybe we should break up, kind of hoping they would say, no, like, let's save this.
Geez, that never happened to me.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
think that ever
Because
happened
I
to
never
me
had a
too.
girlfriend until I was 30.
It also didn't happen to me in this situation where the organization had goals and brand ideas and talent ideas that were counter to my values. And it was a constant battle for me. And honestly, it was a constant battle for them as well. So I fortunately am one of a generation of women, right, retiring with my own wealth, because I worked for those 30 years with IRAs and 401ks and pensions, that at 53 years old, I decided that I was going to retire. I had no idea what that meant. And at the same time, Mark decided to retire.
Well, yeah, my story is a little bit different. I was a fourth generation owner of a family business, an insurance agency that was started by my great grandfather back in 1910. And my grandfather went to work there, my father went to work there, and then my brother and I stepped into the business and ran it for a while. My dad retired at 65, and God bless him, he had really built a great business. But when he slid into retirement and he slid into a traditional retirement, his idea of retirement was always, I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I've worked hard for 40 years. I want to sit back. I want to take it easy, and I want to do nothing. And you know what? He perfected that. There was no one better at that than him. The sad part is it's a slippery slope retirement. And frankly, retirement killed him. He lost his identity. He lost his huge community of people that were so important to him. And he really didn't know how to fill his 40 hours that came his way. So he was a golfer, and he went down to Florida with my mom, and he played golf 3 or 4 days a week with his buddies. And then they'd have lunch, a couple of drinks. He'd go home and take a nap. He'd wake up, watch the news, take my mom to dinner, go to bed early, and do the same thing again. And he died at the age of 80.
And not to interject, but Hugh, you may know people like this. Every conversation you had with Mark's dad moving forward after he retired was a used to conversation.
Yeah,
right.
I used to
be the CEO.
CEO. I used to hold meetings. I used to sit on the board, and that verbiage really wore him out.
Yeah. So he passed away, and it was at that time when he turned 80 and he passed away, and he died of alcoholism. I tell people he didn't invent the 3 martini lunch, but that's what went on back then. He was like the what's that actor, that show, Mad Men?
Don Draper.
He was the Don Draper of the insurance industry. He had a bar in his office, and every night at 5 o'clock, he'd ring the ship's bell and everybody would come in. But he took that skill into retirement. And sadly, just started drinking all day long and all night. And it was a shame. But when he died, Jody and I were thinking about our retirement. And we decided we did not want a retirement like that. There was no way we were going to let that happen to us. So it was a few more years, 20, I sold my business. Chuck and I sold it in 2013. Your company was sold in 2015. I stayed on for 5 years. I thought I would stay for 10, but we didn't. And December 29th, 2018, we both stepped out of the corporate world into retirement.
And Hugh, for your listeners, I want to make sure everyone knows we didn't bounce from that date that we left directly into retirement transformed. We actually, in all honesty, tried the traditional retirement.
I was good at it.
We traveled. I think we went to 6 major cities all throughout Europe. We went to Bora Bora. We went to New Zealand. We went to Australia, Costa Rica. We traveled, and honestly, we ate and drank our way kind of through the first 6 months.
And I had slid into semi-retirement. So
Right.
I stayed on, worked hard for 3 years. We did 6 acquisitions. We went from 25 people to 80 people. I mean, it was incredible. And I just was burned out. So I stepped away, and I just wanted to go back to my roots and handle my favorite 25 clients. Problem was, I ran out of things to do. I stepped down as the office leader and gave that job to somebody else. And I was starting to come in late, like 10 o'clock, and leave at 2. And I remember one day, I had no emails. I had no one outside my door looking for help because I wasn't the leader anymore. And I said, I'm just going to go home. And I did that on a regular basis. And what happened was I would go home. I would open up a bottle of our favorite Pinot Noir Bellegosse, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, have a nice glass of wine. And I started watching Ellen. I had fallen in love with daytime TV.
It was a slippery slope because I was in kind of that 3-year transitional integrating companies, very stressful time. And I'd come flying in the door, with bags of groceries on 2 wheels to find Mark asleep in front of the TV with an empty glass of wine. I can tell you it wasn't great for our marriage.
No.
Sure.
So when we decided to both retire, we did travel. We tried the eating, drinking, entertaining, being with friends.
But we realized it just wasn't sustainable.
It wasn't going to
It-
work for us,
Yeah.
for sure. So we did some research, and every time we would Google or we'd search or we'd investigate, retirement plans,
Retirement roadmap.
all that would come up would be financial.
Right. So
Right.
we were stuck. We were really stuck.
Yeah. And so these experiences of finding that you were in a space of this is not tenable and this is not a direction we can go, object lesson with respect to Mark, to your father, and in the Google and other resource searches and just finding a dearth of good quality information, you made a decision. Tell us about that.
Well, we changed the way we lived. We day by day, week by week, month by month, just started to drink less, eat differently, exercise more. We brought meditation into our life. We brought journaling into our life, and we started to change who we were. Right? Like, people started to notice, gosh, you guys look great. You look really happy. You're having such fun. What are you doing?
So I think I would say from my perspective, a couple things were happening at once, right? So I had been a corporate executive for many years. I had been a mom for many years, and I had been a daughter for many years, and I had been a wife for many years. Suddenly, the kids are out of the house. That was great. Developing great humans. That's what we do as parents. That's awesome. I was no longer a corporate executive. I lost my community. So, I was the type of leader that people were lined up at my door at 7 a.m. before I got into my office. And oddly enough, after 30 plus years with the same company, thinking you're going to have all of this free time now to spend with those folks when you retire, they forget about you. So our loss of community was a huge surprise to me.
So
Yeah.
tough,
And then
so hard.
the idea of, I don't have an identity anymore. Kind of, who am I at 53 years old? I'm not a mom. I'm not a corporate executive. I'm still a wife. And by the way, we're now spending 24 hours a day together, which is a huge amount of time to be re-engaged with your partner, and causes
Yes.
some stress and
Sure,
anxiety.
sure.
We had to really sit back and say, what are the 4 or 5 things that we want to work on together during our next phase of life?
So we built this lifestyle focusing on physical wellness, mental wellness, strong, healthy relationships. We worked very hard on our relationship because, as Jody said, this was new, being together 24/7. And then the fifth, and we call these our 5 pillars of our business model. The fifth component is wisdom sharing. What is it that we can do to recycle all of our experiences, our stories, our wisdom? What can we do to impact the world? Because listen, I'm 65 years old right now, and I fully intend to live till 100. That's a long time without a plan, without some good, healthy habits and routines to have in place, because your life will be shorter if you don't do that.
Right.
And we fully believe if you follow what Jody and I preach, your life will be not only longer, but better. So we built this, and people again said, what are you guys doing? And long story short, we've turned that idea that we had for the 5 pillars into a business, and we call it Retirement Transformed. And we're having so much fun with it because we're learning along the way. We're getting better every day, and we're sharing that wisdom with the 10,000 people turning 65 every single day.
Yes.
And I think what's really inspiring is, either on our YouTube channel or on Instagram, certainly in all the social networks, on Facebook, it's interesting to watch the demographics of people that have started to follow us. They're not all 65.
Yeah.
We have a lot of, 40-year-olds, 45, 50, 55, people that aren't ready to retire, but they want to know what their plan is going to be. And that, I think, is the real inspiration for the business.
Yeah, because there are millions and millions of baby boomers. And again, there's 10,000 people turning 65 every day. And I think that will continue to 2025. But we're doing this for our generation. But we're also doing this for our children, our children's children. Listen, all babies born today, 50% of them will live to be 100. I mean, that's amazing. So we are all living so much longer. There's got to be something to do. You don't want to work till you're 80 if you're going to live to 110.
Well, some people
Right.
do.
Well,
I mean,
they
that's
do,
not really
but-
fair.
Well,
'cause-
no.
And this is where, I am a big fan of the fact that your retirement will be crafted as you choose to craft it. The only question you have to ask yourself day in and day out is, am I happy with what I have?
Right.
And what can I do differently?
But what I meant was my career as an insurance broker
Right.
wasn't, I'd had it with that.
You knew that.
I knew that, and you knew that on your career, but there's another career, there's another phase, third phase of life. Look what we're doing. We started a business. We didn't know we were going to do this. When I was in college or during the peak of my career in business, I never imagined we'd do this.
And imagine being one of our 6 kids, right? They range in age from 24 to 37. Like, what do you mean you're on Instagram?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're doing a YouTube? What do you
Well-
mean you're doing a Facebook Live? Now you have a podcast. It's pretty funny.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
we just taped yesterday a YouTube episode, Sex as We Age. The kids are like, they're hiding when that one comes out.
Well,
But
such
it's
an
not
important
our
topic.
story. It
It is
is
a
an
great
important topic, but it's with a therapist who had some great suggestions. But there's so many issues that we face as we age in retirement. We want to just help people live a better life.
Jody, you mentioned the question as a sort of a foundational question. Are you happy with what you're doing, and what might you do to facilitate that? Paraphrasing what you just said.
Mhm.
I would come at it with another angle. I think that's a great prompt for folks. I would come at it with another angle, and I would go after the identity and meaning question. or questions, but I'd put those together. So what matters to me now?
Right.
And the process of evaluating that, I think, is so key. And the who am I? You, Jody, described these core parts, these core essence, identities for yourself. And for so many years as an executive, who loved her work and was and understood your value within that, but then also you were a daughter and you were a mother who was in the role of raising wonderful humans, and you have these different parts. Each of us do, and so there is an important process when we go through a transition to ask ourselves and to examine and explore who am I as a function of this now being a part of my experience. How does this, I still bring a lot of the essence and the core of who I am forward, but
Right.
how is that married with this new station, this new part of my life? That's the identity piece. And then that's so connected. And I say this oftentimes, that identity and meaning are chicken and egg. They go
Yeah.
together. So what matters to me? And I think when folks explore those things, happiness is going to be the natural output of that.
100%.
And Mark mentioned the 5 pillars. And what's interesting about what you said is getting people at this stage of the game, in this third phase of life, whatever people want to call it, to follow our process that goes underneath each of the pillars. So in our core values, let's say of health and wellness, we ask people to reflect on where they are in health and wellness,
How they're showing up in retirement.
and then envision, where do they want to go? Dream big. What do you want to do? What's your vision for your health and wellness? And then what's your plan to get there? What habits and routines can you put into place? And then what's the action plan? How are you going to start? So in each one of the pillars, we have people reflect, envision, plan, and act. So they're not just jumping into a mental wellness or a physical wellness or a relationship pillar and saying, now what?
Yeah, and a
Right.
great example of that is my personal, or I would say really it's our physical wellness vision. It's not to work out 3 days a week and to meditate 2 days a week and to eat right. That's my activity. That's my habits and routines. My vision is to be physically independent at the age of 90. And I
Right.
will tell you, this morning we woke up. We hadn't had rain here in the longest time. And I'm a cyclist now. And I was dying to ride 30 miles. And it was raining when I woke up. I didn't even know it was going to rain. So my other option when I'm not cycling, I come to the gym in our garage and I work out. And I'm laying in bed thinking, I don't really want it. It's so nice. I can hear the rain outside. But my alter brain said, you want to be physically independent at the age of 90. So you must get up,
Get
go
up and go.
downstairs and go. Just get out of bed and go. And I worked out and I felt so much better. And it's that vision that drives the good habits and routines that we
Sure.
preach in the 5 pillars.
Right. And the momentum begets momentum, and then that becomes the thing that
Yes.
just what you do. So you all
This
have.
thing,
Yeah,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say this transition piece is critical because you get help along your entire life with transition, from one grade to the next, from high school to college, from college to your career, from VP to senior VP. There's all sorts of help along the way. Getting married, there's all sorts of counseling and everything. There's no help for retirement. And this idea of transition, this book that we love, The Way of Transition by William Bridges. It's phase one's letting go of the old. And then phase two is the
Messy middle.
neutral zone,
Yeah.
which is the messy
Mhm.
middle. And then the third phase is the new identity. And you can't leave the old identity until you create the new one. So my dad hung on to the old identity and he was in this messy middle, this neutral zone for 15 years, and then he died.
Right.
He never found a way
Through it.
into.
Yeah.
We all need to retire into something instead of away from something.
Yes, so true. And you all you're going gangbusters with your business, Retirement Transformed. You have your YouTube channel, which is you cover so many um, salient, just so many important topics for this time of life. And I just think it's a great resource. And certainly I'm going to send folks to that through the show notes and as they're listening to the podcast today. So you've got that going on. You're getting a podcast up and running somewhat in conjunction with that. And you are seeing folks as well for consultations as another piece of the business of the Retirement Transform.
Yeah, and I would
Yes.
say one more piece. We run a mastermind that starts in January and it goes for 8 or 9 weeks. We meet weekly. We do it as a cohort learning with a kind of symbiotic learning as a group. Because what we found was we have a course, Your Retirement Game Plan course on our website, but it's really difficult for people to take that course alone and feel like they're really alone because a lot of
Right.
people already feel alone.
And it's hard
Yeah.
work.
And it's
we're,
hard
We're
work,
asking them to make some tough, deep thinking, reflection, and decisions going forward. And
Right.
it's hard.
It is hard. So we run that in January and it goes, I say 8 or 9 weeks. The course is designed to go 11 weeks, but we tried to pare it down a little bit for this coming January. So that's always fun to run a cohort.
Yeah. And that's what we do that once a year. And then we do one-on-one coaching, which is great if someone wants to devote that kind of time. It's an hour a week for 12 weeks. And, they have access to us all week long, texting and everything else. That's a lot deeper.
Sure.
And then we,
speaking engagements,
but we put out a lot of free content because, we didn't get into this business to make money. I know it sounds kind of weird. But we got into this business really just
as a passion project.
Yeah, we got into it for ourselves and it turned into a business, but the YouTube is out there. We have a Facebook community. We do the one-on-one coaching and the annual mastermind. And I think that's
there's no question that this is a passion for you all. And to say passion project, if we put it in the largest sort of global frame, we could call it a passion project, but it has a lot of different parts. And again, really the essence of this is coming out of your personal experiences and your authentic desire to share from that. You talked about the wisdom sharing, to be able to offer that to other folks. And certainly there's so many different pieces to it, and so that's a wonderful thing. Before we wrap up today, there's another part that's going on for the two of you. You have another project coming. I guess it's not coming. It's already underfoot with respect to some books. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there for the two of you.
Well, I believe, I don't know if we believe, but I really believe that everyone has a book in them. And I have crafted probably 3 books over the last 30 years. It's in my Evernote app, and I have the title, I have all the chapters, I kind of have some things in there, what I want to talk about, but I've yet to write one word, not one word. And we met recently an amazing publisher, Kira Paulson, who helps us remove the blocks, writer's block, but really to write books from the heart. And it's the first time that I've been able to sit down. In the last 3 weeks, we started this 3 weeks ago, I've already got 11,000 words written. And for 65 years, I didn't write one word for a book.
Right. And mine's a little bit different. One of our youngest daughters and I decided to embark upon a journaling project this year, whereby we take a word every day and we each journal about it. And I share some thoughts, concerns, stories, memories around the word. And she gets to read them and then share where she is now on the different words. So it's like 2 perspectives from a 53-year-old and a 24-year-old. And because so many of our clients that come to us say, oh, journaling, I don't know where to start, I've decided to publish my journaling book so that I have a journaling guide for everyone around a word with a story, which could be funny or sad or heartbreaking or enlightening. And then some space for them to do some journaling around it as well.
And the interesting thing is that when we originally met this publisher, we thought we were going to write
a book together
on Retirement Transformed.
Right.
Jody just described her book. My book is a book for men. It's about how to how to live a life with compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, working my way all the way through unconditional love, how to be vulnerable as a man. You know, men have a difficult time communicating. Men have a difficult time being vulnerable. So
Sure.
that's what my book is about. And it's interesting that we came up with these two books that have nothing to do with our business, yet it's just, again, another piece on how to live your life feeling
And
more fulfilled and happy.
you're just following your process and you're being open to it. And that's a beautiful thing. And many people are going to benefit from that. I would love to have you back on at some point in the future when these book projects are out and available to folks and we can chat more about them. In the meantime, tell us how folks can best connect with you.
Well, clearly our website, I know you'll probably put these links below, but it's our
Yes.
website. We'll give you the link to our Facebook community, our YouTube channel, Instagram.
We have a blog that goes onto the website every month.
And
We have a blog. Yeah,
the website is
retirement.
retirementtransform.com.
retirementtransform.com. Yes.
If you Google that, you'll find all of our stuff. And the best thing to do is to add your email to our list. We do one email a month. That's it.
Yeah, we try
And
not
that
to
updates
overwhelm
everyone on
Yeah.
what's going on.
Well, I want to again thank you both for joining us today. I'd love to have folks on who offer great and varied resources for folks in the, I would say the third age, this phase of life. We need these things, as you alluded to at the very beginning of our conversation. It's so important that folks have perspective and helpful resources to explore this time of life, and you all provide that. And so, thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks for
And
having
wish
us.
you all the best going forward with your passions.
Thank you, Hugh. And you are going to be our next recorded guest on our YouTube channel, because we didn't hear it all today about your story, but I know you have a great story and you're doing a lot of the same work for the same group of people that we are. So we want to hear more about that for our audience.
Absolutely. And I look forward to that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.